All right, so last week we showed you how amazing our trip was, how the studio was fantastic and it was working. Lenny was excited to help us make a preset for the space, and the concept absolutely works. And it was the exact kind of lifestyle that we've been looking for and working towards. Now I will tell you what happened to set us on a slightly different path than what we were expecting. So we were driving back after New Orleans across Louisiana, which I didn't know is kind of known for having difficult highways to drive on. And I don't have a lot of experience driving an RV trailer. So I'll let you know some of the decisions that we made leading up to this, what happened and what we will change in the future when we decide to rebuild. So we did a lot of research and we watched tons of RV videos and tons of living on the road videos. And in retrospect, I realized that nobody ever really talks about driving with a trailer. And it's definitely something that a lot of people learn from their parents if that's something that they had the opportunity to do. But it's definitely a different approach. And we had a Nissan Frontier, and we had a small RV trailer that was 21 feet long, so it was very small compared to most other types of RV trailers. The maximum weight load of our RV trailer was 3,000 pounds. The maximum pulling capacity of our truck was like 6,600 pounds, something like that. And in our minds, we thought, perfect. We are carrying half the capacity of what we're capable of doing, which would put us in a very solid, comfortable space to where we're not overloading the truck or doing anything like that. I didn't realize that the truck itself is only about 3,000 pounds, which would make the trailer and the truck about the same weight. So that's the first thing that I hadn't really understood or realized during all of our preparation. We had a sway bar and a distribution hitch, both of which are designed to help keep the trailer stable when connected to the truck. And we had brand new tires because we didn't want anything to happen to the tires while we were on the road. And we were always very careful to make sure that everything was level and that our weight distribution was balanced. And whenever we were on the road, we packed away everything as tightly and as balanced as possible, so we didn't have any issues while driving. What happened was we were going through Louisiana. Louisiana has very tricky highways to drive on. One of the things is their roads aren't completely flat, and I'm used to driving in Texas where we have really good roads, and in Louisiana you get a lot of this motion in the roads on the highway, which destabilizes your vehicle and your trailer a bit, whenever you're going 70 miles an hour like this. I also had never considered that whenever you're driving on the highway in Texas, we tend to have, long stretches of trees on either side of the highway. And I never really thought about how that blocks the wind. So when we're going parallel to the shoreline and there are no trees on the sides of the highway in Louisiana, you get a lot of swampland and you get a lot of just open space that you might have winds coming in that create wind tunnels. And one moment you're driving fine, and the next moment you're in a wind tunnel and it's a different situation. So we're driving through Louisiana. I was driving, Chris needed a break to rest, and The conditions seemed perfect. It was a bright day. There were no clouds. Hurricane Ian had just hit Florida. It hit Florida and all the clouds were gone. It was a perfectly clear day. It was sunny and it was beautiful and the conditions seemed perfect. And I was going about 70 miles an hour and it was comfortable. The entire time I was driving, that was a very comfortable pace. And when we were going through a section in Louisiana, we got into a wind tunnel and it grabbed the trailer first. And I looked in the rear view and the trailer is going like this. And within a second, it was out of control. And in my inexperience, my instinct was to hit the brakes, which was the wrong thing to do. Whenever a trailer is getting out of control, there's a very specific technique of turning with the trailer and slowing down and pumping your brakes. And I hit the brakes, which caused all the momentum of the trailer to push into our truck. We spun around 180 degrees and then flipped off of the highway. So, because we were the same weight as our trailer, there was almost nothing that we could do once we were out of control with it. A more experienced driver would have probably been going much slower and anticipating the wind and, you know, this invisible condition that I just wasn't looking out for and wasn't considering because everything looked like perfect conditions and there were no other cars around. Thank goodness we didn't hit anybody else. Everyone in the car survived the crash. Luna, our dog, she survived the crash, but she was scared and she ran out of the truck. And in our efforts to catch her, she was hit by a truck and passed away. So, you know, all of that happened very quickly and I won't dwell on it so much and go into the details so much, but that's what happened. And, you know, that happened about a week and a half ago, and looking back, I'm starting to understand more about how those things work. And hopefully that kind of information will help anybody else who's thinking about getting a trailer, because, you know, it's just not a topic of conversation a lot whenever people are talking about driving their trailers around. You know, and especially, yeah, I guess, so that's that. So the truck and the trailer are totaled, absolutely totaled. And that gives us an opportunity to start over again. And in a way, it's like if that had to happen, then we wanted the truck and the trailer to be totaled just because of the understanding we would have made different decisions knowing what we know now in our preparations, because neither of us have done this before. So that being said, the big decisions that we will make differently next time are to get a 250 Ram, which is a much bigger truck. It's about 10,000 pounds versus our previous truck, which was 3,000 pounds. And we were already wanting a larger truck. We were already wanting a larger truck and we knew it, and we just figured that we would wait until we upgrade and kind of learn whatever lessons we had to learn with this build. But we would get a 250 Ram, which is designed for towing. That is its sole purpose. It's designed to be a tow truck. So there's a lot of elements that I didn't even know existed that exist with the 250 Ram, which we've already taken for a test drive. There are settings on it for towing where the truck can detect the trailer. So if the trailer starts to get off, before you're able to even pick up on some of those signs, the truck is already sensitive and picking up on those signs. So the truck is designed to sense the trailer in down gear if it needs to and make different decisions. It's like a smart truck for towing. Another thing that we're going to do is make sure that we get an RV that has its own braking system. There are quite a few RVs out there that don't have their own braking system, and our particular RV was small and had one axle. And after going to an RV sales lot recently and kind of talking to the sales guys, we learned that having a double axle trailer is much safer. If we had a blowout with a tire, which is very common in the RV world, whenever you're traveling across the country, they always say to check your tires. If we had had a blowout with a tire while on the road, 100% we would have flipped no matter what. So having a double axle helps mitigate some of those potential mishaps, and it helps with stability as well. So we will get a trailer with a double axle and a trailer with its own braking system. And in the 250 Ram, the braking system is already automated, so the trailer will brake with you, but you also have a little tool or like button slider where you can also modify the braking system of the trailer if you're coming up on an accident or you need to react quickly. So that being said, the 250 Ram is highly unlikely to flip with the size trailers that we're looking at. We're going to get a trailer that's still much lighter than the 250 Ram, and if something were to happen to the trailer while on the road, we at least would not flip. So those are some of the big decisions that we would make differently. In terms of improvements that we would make to the trailer, since it was our first build and we were learning a lot of things on the way, there are multiple things that we would improve with a new build. So I'll tell you some of those now. Having a slightly larger RV trailer would make it a little heavier and a little more resistant to things on the road like wind. So it wouldn't just blow over so easily. Initially, our thought process was it's small, it's easier to control, it will be an easier drive, but it's so small that, you know, getting into a wind tunnel definitely impacted the trailer itself. If we were in a heavier rig, the wind we wouldn't have felt that wind so much, and maybe this wouldn't have happened. So we're looking at slightly bigger rigs, which would give us a bit more space and would give me more of a distinguished studio space. Because as you know, with this build, we weren't expecting to have to renovate the entire thing, but I just didn't have enough space for the studio after speaking to the designer. And I needed to have a big curtain that covered the whole wall so I could help with the sound absorption. Another thing that we learned walking through RV parks or, you know, sales lots about a week ago, you know, a couple days after it happened, was that you have two options with RVs. You have fiberglass or you have wood. Our RV trailer was made of wood, so the insulation wasn't as good. It wasn't a 4-season trailer. We knew that we were never going to be able to take it into a winter type of scenario. And it made it a little bit heavier and a little bit less durable or resilient. With a fiberglass trailer, when we were touring some of them, it's much quieter inside, and they have foam board insulation, which also helps with soundproofing. So when we were inside, it was so much quieter than when we were inside our trailer, where it felt like paper thin walls. So we would definitely go with a fiberglass trailer, double axle, its own braking system, a little bit bigger, a much bigger truck that can absolutely handle anything that we're driving through, and a studio space that's set aside for just that purpose, that isn't blocking or really in the way of anything else. Whenever I was recording during this first trip, I could hear everything that Chris and the dogs were doing. If the dogs were walking, I could hear their claws, you know, their paws clicking on the floor, that kind of thing. So we're looking at a model, which I'll show here, where there's a very large bunk space where you could remove the bunk beds without having to tear down anything. And I'm looking at making that space the new studio space. And I feel really confident about that layout. And before we buy anything, I will reach out to Gick Acoustics again and see what their feedback is. Maybe I'll give them a couple options that we're looking at, and they can tell me what's best for a recording space. So, you know, all things said and done, we were very lucky that we didn't even break a bone and we flipped like that going 70 miles an hour. All I got was like, all of this was pretty like swollen and bruised up, you know, through the past week or so, and it's almost all gone. I just have this and a little bit of scarring on the side of my face. And you know, it's sad that we lost Luna, our dog. We still have our other dog, and all he suffered was a minor cut on his leg, and he is all right. So we're just counting our, you know, our lucky stars, and we rebuild again, and I will take you along for that journey again. And I hope that, you know, some of the information that I'm giving you guys is helpful. And yeah. So onward and upward. I'll see you guys next time.